What's going on, everybody? It is another episode of MLS Monday by Scarves and Spikes. I am Tyler Pilgrim, joined here by Sydney Hunt. We'll be joined very shortly by Madison Cruz, and a little bit later by Tommy Moose. That guy, whoever he is. Whoever that guy is.
You're up by the ocean, aren't you? You're at a beach house somewhere in Florida. You're nice and relaxed.
I'm relaxed. I'm chilling. Not on the beach. We're actually in Orlando still from the other day, and we're at a resort down here. So right behind me is the pool. A few stories down.
Nice.
The hot tub, which kind of wish I was doing this show from, but I'm chilling down here. Yeah. Scarves and Spikes hot tub edition.
Yeah.
So how are you?
Not bad. Crazy day on Saturday with decision day. Obviously, we'll talk about Atlanta just a little bit. Talk a little about Atlanta when Maddie gets on, or actually when Tommy gets on. But we'll talk about obviously everything else that happened around the league. LAFC LAFC winning the Western Conference top seed and crazy
just shenanigans.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll chat about that. Of course, Atlanta. Their win against Orlando 2-1, a win that shouldn't have been, I guess. And we'll dive into that, of course. Really give you our first look at the MLS Cup Playoffs, which begin tomorrow with the wildcard matches. Montreal and Atlanta in the East, and Vancouver and Portland in the West. So talk about that, a lot more going on around MLS and a lot of the storylines happening. So looking forward to it. Should be a fun show.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. We will have, like we said, Madison Cruz from Soccer Down Here will be back with us again here in just a few minutes. So we're going to do it a little differently. We're gonna talk about all of the rest of Decision Day and MLS, and then we're going to dive into the Atlanta stuff. You know, we do these MLS Monday shows, and we're trying to keep them MLS focused,
right? And
our Wednesday normal show Atlanta focused. But Decision Day, a lot of it revolved around Atlanta and that whole debacle and all the craziness that went into those last couple of Eastern Conference teams getting in. So, look, our worlds are going to collide at some point, and thankfully it's in a good way. So we're going to jump into it. But make sure you go check out scarvesandspikes.com. We've got articles pumping out over there. Sydney has been keeping everybody up with all the playoff stuff going on. The recap from the other night. I had obviously our first reaction article from Decision Day, and then also just like a little bit of insight into the way Decision Day went down for Atlanta players and staff, and kind of like what I saw from Go Stadium down here in Orlando. So go check that out. Make sure you join the Patreon where Sydney and Tommy hosted the watch along, and they will be doing another one. So patreon.com/scarves and spikes, and then go to the store. Get you a beer glass or a mug, or I don't know what the weather's like up there in Georgia right now, but get you a hoodie.
Beautiful
shirt,
in Georgia.
Get you a hat.
It's beautiful. It's like 75 degrees outside right now, so not
I left
weather,
to come down here. Saturday morning it was like 40 outside, and I was like, I'm so glad I'm leaving this.
But yeah, definitely help us out at the store. Definitely helps us out. Helps us, do stuff like this. And of course, like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching on X, definitely join the conversation. Either click the video on the mobile device. You'll see the live chat there. So chat with us there. Or if you're on a desktop, click the, I think it's the link itself right there on the video screen. And you'll be able to chat with us. It's a little bit difficult with X, we find. So obviously, YouTube's a little bit easier, so that's your way to do it on X. But we definitely want you to join the conversation, no matter how you're watching this evening. But Tyler, you mentioned we have a guest coming on. Very familiar name and face to our viewers. So, shall we do it?
We do. Let's go. It's almost perfect timing, by the way. So I was like 7:05. We'll get you right in. Yeah. Here she is, Madison Cruz. Welcome back.
I'm so happy to be back.
How are you?
Hello, everybody.
Good to have you back.
Much better than maybe was kind of expected coming into this Monday.
Listen, and I couldn't ask for it any better, honestly. I mean, truly. It's pretty cool.
It is it's one of those things where I think we're all pleasantly surprised, right? And we're gonna get into Atlanta because Tommy's gonna get on to join us, so we're gonna have the whole like shebang going on. But just as a quick side note, like off the cuff, what were your feelings after the way this went down? Like final whistle blew, what was your immediate reaction?
Oh God. I mean, well, first of all, I was going back and forth between both Atlanta United, Orlando, and also Georgia and Texas. So I was having so much emotions right now. I think my heart rate got up to like 130, and that's not normal. That's not good. It was not good. It was not fun. But I mean, I was ecstatic. I mean, honestly, because it was electric. It really was. It was awesome. It was a great performance. I mean, you got the job done, and now you're off to the playoffs. And I mean, it's basically what Saba said. I mean, in media last week, it was like, get the goal early, and it'll set us on the right path, and it did.
Yeah, we talked about it, Tommy, or Tyler, Tommy, and I talked about it on Wednesday. It was so important for them to get that first goal in a hostile environment, in an environment where Orlando had been in very good form coming into the match. And, heart rates, obviously among Atlanta United Nation like yours went up, especially when that goal went in for Duncan McGuire. We're like, oh my gosh, here we go again. We knew this team would blow it at the last moment. And of course, it was taken off. We'll talk about it in depth, but really a heart-stopping moment there for Atlanta United, but it all worked out at the end.
It did, because I watched it in real time, and I saw it go in, and you don't see it initially. You don't see it at all. You look at it and you go, okay. You're like, okay, it's equalized, it's whatever. But then you go back and you watch the replay, and you're like, oh yeah, that's a handball. That's a handball, and that gets brought back. And it's one of those. It's a heart like stopping in those moments. But I mean, going back to it, I mean, you got saved, and then the rest of the time they were able to close it down and didn't allow anything. And here we are.
Here we are, Atlanta Montreal Part 3. Saba versus Joseph, a very informed Joseph Martinez we should add. So nerves, I'm sure, will be very, very frayed on Tuesday night, tomorrow night. So Atlanta United goes up there, and like there's the old adage, right? It's hard to beat a team 3 times in the season. Hopefully that holds true. Montreal is heading in with a lot of confidence coming into this match. They're in really good form. Joseph's in really good form. It's a lot of narratives going into this match, and I feel like Atlanta, going out and playing with house money, right? They know the further they get, the more expectations they'll kind of shatter. So kind of low pressure in that respect, but at the same time, a team, we've seen it all over the socials, right? A team that wants to go out, they have something to prove, right? Rob said it in the locker room. Saba, I'm sure, said it. This is a team with a chip on its shoulder, and nobody's giving them a chance. And they've kind of played off that over the past couple of days, and we'll see how that translates on the field, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's obviously nerve-wracking going in and facing FC Montreal, CF Montreal, excuse me. It's
okay. They change the name every other year.
Yeah.
Every time you go into that matchup, and especially with what has happened this year in that matchup as a whole, it's nerve-wracking. And also, I mean, Brad said it today, it's going to be a hostile environment. It's going to be electric up there. And you got to go up there and you got to find a result. But the one thing that is clear is it's like regular season's done. It's over. You're in playoffs now. None of that matters. Let all of that go, because this is your time. None of it matters. All that matters is getting out and getting a win and moving on to the next.
100%. And we're going to dive into it because it's essentially just another tournament, and that's kind of how you have to look at it. To Brad's point, like, you've made it past that part, right? Only one team gets the trophy for what they did in the regular season. Now you got to go and play the real tournament, the one that actually matters. And you snuck in, and everything went your way. And kudos to the team for coming out hot and doing what they had to do. We'll dive into it. We'll get into Atlanta because that was a roller coaster of emotions, if there ever has been one. So we'll get into it when, especially when Tommy gets here. But just to lay it out as it stands, the aforementioned tournament, aka playoffs. Eastern Conference: Inter Miami in first, Columbus, Cincinnati, Orlando, Charlotte, New York City, and then the Red Bulls. And then, of course, we have the play-in game between Atlanta and Montreal. And then over in the Western Conference, some shenanigans happened, but LAFC in the top spot, LA Galaxy just behind them on every tiebreaker you can imagine. Real Salt Lake, Seattle Sounders, Houston Dynamo, Minnesota, Colorado, and then the play-in game between Vancouver and Portland. Maddie, I guess my first question, just overall kind of overarching decision day, again, shenanigans. What were there any surprises besides Atlanta? Were there any other surprises? Anything that you just were like, wow, that was crazy. I wasn't expecting it, whatever.
Oh, well, first of all, it was absolute chaos. I think me and John said it on here. We just want chaos. And it was chaos. It was absolute chaos. I mean, I think the one that honestly sticks out to me is got to be Houston and LA Galaxy.
Oh, yeah.
That one's got to stick out. I mean, because going into it, I would assume LA Galaxy was the favorite going in against Houston. And, you know, it's unfortunate because literally Houston dominated. Absolutely dominated. Scored in the 44th, then scored again after LA Galaxy had tied it with a penalty. And then just like, I mean, in like sudden death, like scored it and it's done.
Yeah.
Chaos. Absolute chaos. And it sucks because now LAFC is the top seed, and that was something that was a big storyline for the Western Conference, was who was going to come up on top, which LA team was going to do it, and LA Galaxy couldn't get it done.
Yeah. I was watching LAFC San Jose, and LAFC were down 1-0. They've scored 3 in the second half to pull it 3-1. I'm watching like everybody in BMO Stadium. They're watching Houston, LA. Peck scores from the spot, and was it the 3rd minute of stoppage time? But then Daniel Steres scored in 11th minute of stoppage time. I think there were 6 minutes put on, and this was in the 11th minute. Just insane. And that to me was, I feel like, the most memorable moment of decision day. I wrote about it on Scarves and Spikes, but what an atmosphere at BMO. Not only getting the top seed in the West because of it, but getting the top seed in the West over your bitter rival, your crosstown rival. And that just added to, I guess, the festivities for 3-2-5-2 over there in BMO.
Chaos.
It's one of those. Chaos. I mean, you can't put it any better than that. It's absolute chaos. I think from a neutral standpoint, you look at the way that this went down for the two LA teams, and it's something that you don't get a lot of in MLS. You don't get the kind of Premier League or La Liga kind of rare moment. And it's even rare in those, right? Where it comes down to like your last game on the final day of the season, and you're doing your job, but you still have to have things go your way to hit the top of the standings. I mean, Atlanta kind of had a similar situation, but that's just to make it in the playoffs. But to, people forget a conference final. You make it to that final match and you win to go to MLS Cup. That is a trophy in itself. People forget about that. It is a piece of silverware, and to put yourself in that first seed, you can't underestimate it, because that's why we have the seeding, right? That's why you have the number one taking on whoever wins that play-in game, and it is heavily favored, not just because of the seeding, but because whoever's in that play-in game is coming off a very, very short rest.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Lots of, it's not just about the number; it's about you actually have something legitimate to play for, and there's a little bit of strategy involved. So
I think
wild.
Yeah, I think adding to that, you're looking at Vancouver and Portland, two teams that are not in very good form right now. So that really adds to it for LAFC. They're really licking their chops and going into this, first round this weekend. Gonna be really interested to see what happens with them. Does the rest help LAFC? Does it hurt LAFC? So that's another factor, definitely, that Tyler, you mentioned will go into it. I guess Anything else though from and that was obviously the moment that topped it all. Maddie, anything else from decision day that caught your eye? I mean, outside of Atlanta.
Ooh, I mean, I think you got to look at. I think obviously the big match I was eyeing was Seattle and Portland, and that one, ended in a 1-1. But also too, I mean, it sucks too because I mean, you got Austin winning against Colorado 3-2. Unfortunately, though, due to the results, they are knocked out completely. And it's unfortunate, but I mean, it's one of those, they were out a while ago, but to come out and get a result like that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. But you also do have to look at it again. It's like Colorado obviously was slated. I'm pulling up my notes right now, actually, as I'm looking at it. Yes. I mean, Colorado coming in was already pretty much in the playoffs. Could have played for seeding. That would have been the only thing, but I don't even think at that point it was pretty much already confirmed. They couldn't move up or down, really.
Yeah,
So,
they were kind of in like an Orlando situation, I think,
Yeah.
where they might have bumped them up like with, I don't know if it wouldn't be home field advantage, but not much to play for, relatively speaking.
Exactly. And so I think that result for Austin, too, to end the season on a high like that, especially at home, that was really cool for them. And, Portland getting in, going up against Seattle was a 1-1 draw, and now they're the 9th seed. They're going to Vancouver, and that one's going to be fun.
That was, going back to the Rapids, that was already going to be a tough matchup going in because they have to play a very talented, very attack-minded LA Galaxy side. That being said, the Rapids are in terrible form. They're going into this on a 4-match losing streak and winless in the last 7. And just looking at the form guide right now, they've scored just 2 goals in their past 4 matches. And moving to their past 5 matches, they scored just 3 goals in their past 5 matches. And that to me, I feel like that's chalk in the Western Conference. I don't think LA will have too much trouble with them, and not to get too much into the playoff situations, the predictions or anything like that. But LA going into that, I mean, if they don't come out of that on the other side, that's a disaster for them, especially with the attacking talent they have, especially with the way Colorado have been playing. So that to me is a pretty straightforward matchup out there in the West.
Should be, right?
Should be.
And that's the thing. We saw how, I mean, it's MLS. We already know this. Things can go weird. And I see Edgar in the chat talking about how, Portland staying home. They can't play their home game at home. I will say Edgar, and Edgar was on a couple weeks ago. Or God, was it? Yeah, a couple weeks ago. Talking about
Sorry, by the way, Edgar.
Yeah, no, our condolences to your LA Galaxy. It was great entertainment for all of us.
Yeah.
But
listen, LA's gonna. I don't know, man. LA Galaxy, I think, is gonna be a team. They're gonna be coming off of that loss. They're gonna have some fire, and I'm excited to see them. I have LA Galaxy making it to the MLS Cup, so I think they'll do it.
I still think they're a more well-rounded team than anybody else in that conference. I mean, look, LAFC can hit you with anything on any given day, but they are predictable. They really are predictable. You more or less know what you're going to get out of LAFC. They're just really good at it, just like Atlanta was in 2018. You knew what you were getting out of Atlanta until the playoffs, and then Tata did some shenanigery and changed it up a little bit on the Red Bulls, but you knew what you were getting, right? And LAFC is similar. But the Galaxy, I think, when it comes to running deep into the playoffs, and I do agree, I think they will get to the conference finals, like Edgar said. I think they'll win it. I think they'll go to MLS Cup. Just because I think they have a little bit more in terms of tools in the toolbox to make something happen. So, but either way, it was a fun decision day out there in the West for those of us that didn't have a dog in the fight. To see that go down with Houston,
insane,
heartbreaking in one respect, and absolutely, insane for the rest of us. But I like that matchup, like you said. So besides that, I mean, I think if I'm just staying in the Western Conference for a minute, I still don't understand how Minnesota has appeared in the playoffs. I just don't think Minnesota's a good soccer team. I really don't. Like, to me, they're the one that I see them struggling to do anything in this first round. I think that's kind of a done deal.
Yeah.
It's difficult too because I think when you bring in the best of three, like it changes the game, I think, completely. And it's so fitting that it is, that's the first like big round besides the wild card games and the play-in games. You get the best of three, and that that ensures that you're going to get at least one home game, one away game, and then depending on how that goes, then you get to go either back to the first seed or the higher seed. But still, like, I mean, the best of three really changes things up, especially with how teams can perform, what they can do, personnel shifts, and it allows them to have a little time to, get a little crafty, plan a couple things. You get like almost a week, not even I'm trying to think week. Yeah. You get almost a week, almost a week to prepare for each game too. And that's pretty nice for that. You're not dealing with a whole bunch of schedule compressions like you might would have been in other situations in other tournaments. So it's a little nice there, but the play in the best of three is so interesting. It's so interesting, and that on its own creates its own chaos.
Let me actually throw this little wrinkle out, and Maddie, maybe I'll hit you with this first, and then Tyler, you can follow up. So the wild card in the best of three, after 90 minutes, it goes straight to penalties, right? So does that kind of motivate the quote-unquote lesser teams to maybe play for draws in these matches, knowing that, hey, if we can get it to penalties, we can really make our move then? So I guess how does that kind of shape the tactics that some of these teams that might be underdogs approach the match?
I mean, obviously, you're any team, you compete to win, obviously, especially in a game like the wild card in particular, not even including the best of three, but the wild card itself. These teams are fighting to get into the best of three to even go. At that point, it's already a must win. You're going to throw everything you have at it. You're going to try and win in 90 minutes. And if you have to go to PKs, then you have to. But I think the mindset doesn't change. I think once you get to obviously the point where you're like, okay, I think we might got to start thinking a little bit about it. You already have that set plan. You know who's going to step up to take it. You know who's going to do it. And at that point, it's just a mental game. PKs are literally just you and the keeper. You just have to guess right and hope for the best. Like it's, you have to be confident, and it's hard. I don't think if you're any of these teams, I don't think you change anything of what you do going into that game because it goes to penalties. You have to go in wanting to win, no matter what it is, no matter if it's a best of three, no matter if it's wild card, you go in to win. You never want to compete for a draw. Now, if you're down a goal, that changes the story, because then also too, you're down a goal, then you need to get in there. You need to equalize. And then when you equalize, then you have an opportunity to then go and win it in PKs. So it's a double-edged sword. I feel like either way, it's like, you want to go in to win. And then obviously in game, if something changes, you have to be quick and adjust. Like you have to. And if you can't adapt, then you're going to shoot yourself in the foot.
Yeah. I mean, I think especially again, in these play-in rounds, you have to look at this not just as, a team coming in on short rest and they're going to have, 90 minutes to try to win the game. And then you then have short rest before you go in. Now you play the actual playoffs. You have still a road to get there. So that's where the schedule congestion kind of sets in. But for practical reasons, you shouldn't be playing for a draw. I mean, strategically, I can see it, I don't necessarily see it with either one of the play-in games right now, like Atlanta, Montreal. I don't see.
I was thinking more of the best of three. Yeah,
but in general, I mean, I think there is some strategy there, but what you have to avoid, at least in the play-in round as well, and then if you do make it past that into that best of three, is the mental toll that a penalty can take on you. Like it's not physical running around for an extra 30 minutes and then you got to go play again. That's fine. But the stress and the mental toll of a penalty shootout is pretty immense, and it is tough. Every one of us saw Bartek Slish after Leagues Cup and how distraught he was for the penalties and everything else. It's mentally, it is a tough toll, because at that moment in time, on your back is the rest of the team and the fan base. And if it doesn't go well for you, then you're going to be looked at in a certain lens, in a certain light.
As a villain.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to avoid it, because even if it comes out well, right? Like you end up winning the penalty shootout. If one of the players missed one or something happened to where it just didn't go your way, that's still a huge mental burden to bear for that player. Stay away from it. Just go win the game, get it out 90 minutes, go home, get 5 extra minutes of sleep, and come back and do the thing that you got to do. That was a very long-winded way of saying, like, it's a strategy, but don't do it. Don't do it.
I'm just throwing it out there.
You're right. I mean, it's a valid point. It's absolutely valid.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess talking about the play-in matches, I'm thinking about the NBA. Talking about the wildcard matches, of course, Atlanta, Montreal, and we'll dive in a little bit more when Tommy gets on. But Portland, Vancouver, already mentioned the form isn't the best for either side. Just take a look right now. Portland, as he said, 1-1 draw with Seattle, Cascadia Derby up there. And Portland have had numerous opportunities to really make the move of the standings, but winless of the last 5, 4 draws and a loss, and Vancouver have just fallen off. Vancouver losers for the last 4, 5 losses in the last 7 matches. The other 2 were draws. Vancouver look in worse shape than Portland at this time. I feel like, you guys let me know what you think. I feel like Portland are better equipped to win this match. If you look at a player like Evander, who is an MLS MVP candidate, Cabecita Rodriguez out there as well in the attack. Granted, Vancouver have Brian White. They have Ryan Gauld, who are as good as an attacking duo as there is in the league where they're on their day. That being said, I feel like Portland, not only for the fact that they're playing at Providence Park, may have the edge in this one. What do you guys think?
I would agree. I think we also forget too, when you get into these playoffs and you are the higher seed, whether it's you're in 8th, you're in 7th, whatever it is, you automatically expect, I'm going to get a home game. This is awesome. I get to play in front of my home fans. It's a better environment. You always do better when you're at home. It gives you that edge. It sucks. If you're the Whitecaps, you go into this, you competed, you're now the 8th, you get to play the play-in game, and now you don't even get to host it. And it's just because of conflicting events happening at BC Place, and it's unfortunate. And I feel like that also is like mentally just like, dang, like we worked, the 9th seed's now hosting us, and so now we got to go in and do a road game and now compete to get into the playoffs. Like, I definitely think that has some weight to it, especially when you look at the matchup. And I would agree, though. I think Vancouver's coming into this a little bit hotter. I think it's such a weird line because they're both kind of at a standstill right now. And okay, like they're both kind of okay. It's like, all right, like we're here. But I don't know. That one is going to be really interesting. I wouldn't be shocked if that one goes 0-0 and then they go to PKs.
Yeah, I could see that. I've got nothing else other than, because I agree with everything y'all said. I mean, gut feeling, I think Portland takes it though.
Yeah.
And reasoning, gut feeling. That's what I got. I feel like it's one of those where we always talk about being in the right momentum or whatever going into the playoffs.
Yeah.
You can sneak in the playoffs, but you did well in the beginning of the season, and then you have a rough end of the season. I'm looking at Salt Lake kind of right now. They punched their ticket to the playoffs in the first 5 months of the season. Can they hold off Minnesota? Yes, because I just said Minnesota is the worst team in here. But I don't know that they can consistently do it after that. I mean, they've just been so up and down. As far as I just think Portland, though, I think for this play-in match specifically, you've got a guy that can go out on any given day and completely turn the game in his direction. And sometimes that's all you have to have. It's just one game, and it's not even a full game. Again, it's 90 minutes and then the penalties. So I think they can hold it off minimum to a draw and win it in penalties. But if not, I mean, I think they take it with, just like a 1-goal lead. So
it's definitely concerning, though. I mean, you look at Portland, the collective performances obviously haven't been there because they aren't winning football games. I mean, I mentioned Evander and Rodriguez. They have that attacking prowess, but it hasn't equated to wins. I think that's the only thing you have to look at. I don't think they'll do well in the series with LAFC at all. LAFC. I think, yes, they'll win, but yeah, I don't see them really winning a game against LAFC just because of the relative golfing quality between the two sides. So, yes, they'll beat Vancouver in what should have been a road game. And by the way, they were kicked out Vancouver by a motocross event. So that's why for those of you not aware, that's why they're not playing at BC Place. But yeah, I agree with you two, Vancouver falling to Portland for sure. But Portland getting the honor, quote unquote, of playing LAFC in the first round. And I don't see them going far at all, to be honest with you.
Hey, but if they can go and do it, more power to them, because we say all this stuff and we predict all this stuff. Playoffs are the playoffs, and you never know what can happen. So
I remember I said, was it Sporting? Yeah, Sporting Kansas City versus St. Louis last year, right? I said Sporting Kansas City, we're gonna lose that series, and they end up winning, I believe. So that's sports for you.
That's how it goes. So, all right, jumping over to the East as we wait on Tommy to get in. Starting off, because again, we're going to get to Atlanta, but at one point, I say one point, for about 40 minutes on decision day, I genuinely thought we were going to have an episode inside of a Waffle House, because that was the running bet that if Miami didn't win that game and beat the points record, then all three of us were going to have our next live show from a Waffle House, like ordering hash browns, coffee, the whole 9 yards. For 40 minutes, I was like, I can't even focus on that because of all the stress Atlanta's giving me. But in the back of my head, I was like, which Waffle House am I going to go to? Because I'm going to have to do it here in Orlando, and I don't know anything about Orlando Waffle Houses. I'm so screwed. Thankfully, it didn't happen.
Then reality happened.
Sit by yourself in an Orlando Waffle House. Oh my
With
God.
an Atlanta shirt on. As you know, somebody that probably knows nothing about soccer is coming over, pouring coffee, giving like the whole 9 yards, screaming out hash brown orders in the background. It was going to be an enlightening experience. Kind of sad it didn't happen, actually.
Yeah.
Maddie, Miami thoughts. What did you think about how it went down? Messi's hat trick, the whole 9 yards.
Listen, I had notifications set for like basically every game going on in the East. I basically was refreshing Foot Mob like every 4 minutes. It was just like, okay, let's go. Because I had the Atlanta United game on our TV outside. I'm over there by the fireplace. I'm losing my mind. And I'm just like, okay. I'm like, let's go. Let's keep refreshing. And I saw that immediately New England scored in the second minute. And I was like, wait, I didn't have that on my bingo card this year. It's like, what? And then they scored again. And I was like,
uh-oh.
I was like, what? And then they brought in Messi, and then Messi does Messi things, and he gets a hat trick. And, I expect nothing less from the GOAT, honestly. I expect nothing less. I knew as soon as he checked in, I was like, yeah. I was like, they're scoring.
Right.
They're scoring. They're scoring. But, I mean, listen, Adam, I agree with you. I don't think their defense is all that great at all. I mean, we've seen it multiple times this season. I mean, truly. I've been saying it on SDH for so long. Me and John have been echoing this for so long.
Yeah.
Miami has great offense. We know that. We've seen it multiple times again. With or without Messi, very, very solid offensively. Defensively, though, it's like no one's there defending the ball. It's like the ball rolls into the 18-yard box, and they're like, oh, no. They're like,
it's there.
It's there.
Should I touch it or not?
Right.
They're like, am I clearing it or am I just going to leave it? What are we going to do? And so their defense really, really hurts them. But I will say, though, their defense hasn't been good, but they're scoring to make up for it. When they do concede goals, they're over there on the other end scoring braces, hat tricks. So, I mean, at some point, it's like, hey, you don't have one, so let's make up with it with the other. But I don't know. I was watching that the first 40. I was like, oh no. I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, Waffle House beckons. Here we go. Like I thought it was happening. Omar with a good point, real quick, saying Atlanta has a 2-goal differential, and that's gonna be part of what we talk about, obviously, because if Atlanta makes it past Montreal, then Miami is waiting, and Atlanta has had good luck against them. But if you go back to last year, the goal differential is actually +5 because of that 5-2 stomping at the Benz that Atlanta had. So I mean, they've had success, and to the whole point, you have a team in Miami that they love to attack because they have all the tools. They have the best tools in the world to go attack, right? Like, why would you not? You have one of the best strikers ever. You have the best player in the world ever. You have one of the best midfielders in the world ever. A left back that likes to get into the attack, one of the best ever. Take advantage of it. But by doing that, you're leaving yourself exposed a lot. Yeah. And you see it. And you see teams take advantage of it. Atlanta being the prime example. That was against Messi, who started. That was against the whole team. And they cracked the code and they did it. So it's not impossible. You can absolutely have success against them.
It's exploiting them in the right moments. It really is. You have a knack for it. At some point, I mean, it's kind of like what you said earlier. You talked about Atlanta in 2018. It's like it gets to a point, like in the regular season, you know what they're going to do. Obviously, Tata going into playoffs switches it up, and we ended up winning. And because Tata's brilliant. But like it's the same thing, though. I mean, Miami at some point has become a little bit predictable. They're going to have the offense to score, but their defense isn't going to do much about it, especially on that right side. And that's where Atlanta was able to exploit a lot of the time because they're not closing down that side. And so that has kind of come into fruition here is that, you know what's going on. You can kind of pick out like, okay, here's where I need to go. Here's where we need to fix. Here's what we need to adjust. So I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Let me ask you guys this. Of course, we talked about Messi's hat trick, and I think the three of us agreed that Cucho Hernandez should be the MVP. Does what Messi did last night change your vote? No.
Nope.
Mine neither. And simply because it's New England. My gosh. New England turned up a light weeks ago.
A hat trick against your first hat trick in MLS against any team this year, 2024. Of
course,
it had to be New England or Chicago.
Yeah. And I mean, like, listen, too. I mean, I was listening even to MLS 360 before everything went down, and they were having the same discussion that we are having right now of who should be MVP. And listen, Bradley Wright Phillips makes a great point. We know what Messi can do. He wasn't there for a lot of the season. Who has been there multiple times? Like, I firmly believe Cucho Hernandez, what he has done is so brilliant, especially with Columbus Crew. Evander as well. I would honestly, both of those two are my top two for MVP for MLS this year. I just think that what they've brought to this team, it's so complete. And they were there. They were there for almost every pivotal moment that each of these clubs have had through all the ups, the downs. I'm looking at the Portland Timbers for Evander as well for that. But Messi is great. Messi is the GOAT. We know this. We all know this. I mean, there's no questioning that at all. But I do not think he deserves MVP.
Agree. Yeah.
And I'll say this
about
that question as we get Tommy in here. But I think you've got like MVP. Absolutely, we understand it's the most valuable player, and keeping it within the parameters of what that actually means. Maddie, you just explained why Messi shouldn't get it, right? Because the team's done well without him. So yes, we know what he's going to do. Fine. On the other side of that spectrum, the MVP should help elevate their team to be more competitive than the play-in game in the Western Conference.
Yeah, exactly. That's my case against Evander.
Yeah, and that's the only thing. But the one right there in the middle that is doing both, that's there all the time and has been a huge impact and has put himself and his team up in the very top of the Eastern Conference is Cucho. It has to be Cucho. And that's who I voted. I mean, I didn't put it out on Twitter, but that's who I voted for.
Yeah,
it has to be Cucho.
Yeah.
So there, I dropped my mic and my 2 cents.
Thanks, props.
All right, and with all that being said, we can still talk about some of the Eastern Conference stuff. But Tommy has arrived back from the grocery store, I think.
Hey there.
Hola. How are you?
I like Cucho too.
Yeah.
I like
your
it.
I like
I
your
like it.
reasoning.
Cucho's definitely. I mean, he's the Joseph Martinez clone, right? Everything about him just reminds me of him. But then I saw the argument today, and of course it was from the battered herons, that Messi got MVP of the star of the game over the weekend, and he only played like 25 minutes and got a hat trick.
We got a hat trick.
Exactly. That's the entire point.
And right, so are you saying that's what he should be MVP then, Sydney?
No, absolutely not.
Well, that
Absolutely
was
not.
their point, was saying that he only played part of the game and got
Right.
MVP. He only played part of the season, get MVP. It's a silly argument, but that's those Miami guys, you can't trust them anyways.
we were saying before you came on, just how he's played, just a little over half the season. So definitely a case against him for sure. And I feel like it will sway some people's votes, but then again, it was New England. It wasn't like LAFC or anything like that. So I'm sticking with Cucho. I'm sure all of us are sticking with Cucho then. So
Messi gets it. I mean, 100% he gets it, right? Like, does anyone actually think he doesn't not win it?
He will win it, but I don't think he should.
No, there's a face on here that's saying maybe not.
From overwhelming points of view that I've read and a couple of other things, everyone thinks Messi will get it, but a lot of people are voting for Evander Cucho. Like, I think if Messi gets it, I think it's a disservice. I mean, really. I really do. Because, I mean, Messi is such a great player. That's for sure. What he's done with Inter Miami, I don't think you don't need an award for it. Like, we know what he's brought to Inter Miami. We know what he's done. Like, we know what type of player he is. He's a great player. He's someone that Inter Miami, that's their focal point. Like, that's who it is. But if we're looking at most valuable player, and I go back to 2018, I mean, forgive me if I'm wrong. I might be completely wrong about this. Joseph.
Yeah.
Joseph.
The MVP and Golden
Boot. He played almost every single game for Atlanta United. And he won MVP. Point blank, period.
Yeah.
I agree. And it's not to knock like Messi and what he's done. And because Nicholas, I looked this up on the screen, he said, with Messi going to Miami, was Messi going to Miami good for MLS as a whole? Yeah. I mean, anywhere that Messi goes, it's going to be good for that league. Just for very obvious reasons. Money, eyes on the league. Like, it does things. Whether you break contract, rules to do it, I don't know. That might not be good for the league in the long run, but whatever. We don't talk about that. No, I think, it's great. It really is. But going back to the MVP conversation, clearly there are two different definitions of MVP out there, and that's fine. But the MVP, in my eyes, most valuable player is the player that affects their team, elevates their team in the best way, and is there consistently. And the only one that fits those two portions of that definition is Cucho. Anyway.
I will rest my case here as well. I have pulled up the list of who's won MVP. Listen, 2021, Carlos Gil, New England Revolution. Yeah. 2022, Mukhtar, Nashville. Acosta last year. And we obviously don't know this year, but what's the one thing they all have in common?
Pretty much played the whole season, right?
Exactly. I think if we're having the discussion, I think about most valuable player, it's the player that was on the pitch, was on the bench every game, no matter what. They played, they had a significant opportunity here in almost every game that they played. And Inter Miami was able to win without Messi when a lot of people doubted that they could. And that's full credit to what Inter Miami has been able to do, because for a long time it was branded like, oh, well, they're nothing without Messi. They've proven they're not. They've proven that they can win without Messi, without Busquets, without Suarez. They've done it. So to me, if anything, that's more of a reason why he shouldn't be MVP, because Inter Miami was able to do it without him.
100%.
I rest my
100%.
case. I rest my case.
And well, you know, it's funny because like Edgar, Gray, Omar, everybody, Adam have like their ideas of like what should be or why it should be this way. That's where everybody that has a vote in this. That's kind of like I think the thought process for so many people. And if you go listen to any of the MLS 360 broadcasts, they're having the same exact conversations, like you said earlier, Matty. Like these are all conversations that are being had on a consistent basis. Just because he's Messi doesn't mean he's MVP. I'm sorry.
No, you're right. And it's gonna be treated as popularity contest, and it's sad, but it is what it is. So, but with Maddie, I rest my case. It's Kucha. I'm not changing my vote. I can't anyway. But
mic dropped.
So,
Tommy, you have something real quick?
Yes.
Well, since this is MLS Monday, can I complain about something about MLS real quick?
Go ahead.
So the playoff round, the real playoff round, right? Well, first off, let me say I'm wrong. They released Atlanta United playoff shirts. So the play-in games are playoffs. I said if they released playoff shirts, which they say they're available in 2 weeks. What happens if you lose? The shirt's not even worth it anymore. Okay. That's rant one. Rant two. The playoffs, the first round is from the first game of the first round is Friday through Tuesday. Okay? So you've got a span of games that you can play between Friday and Tuesday. Atlanta plays this play-in game on Tuesday. And now they have to go and play on Friday. Now, the Western Conference play-in game is on Wednesday, and they don't have to play until Sunday. I'm sorry. I feel like the underdog is always going to... The play-in winner, it's going to be very rare that they ever end up beating the number one seed, right? In any sport, right? It's very rare. Why do you put them at a disadvantage immediately by making them play on a short week, a very short week, right? A Tuesday through Friday quick turnaround, I think is just ridiculous to me. You could have had them play Saturday, Sunday, whatever, to at least give them a fighting chance. I don't think Miami needs the help. You could put anybody on that Friday. And I'll say the same thing. If Atlanta loses to Montreal, I don't think it's fair to Montreal either. And I've talked about this, I think, on here before. I definitely talked about it on Battered MLS before. I just think that you need to, if you want a fighting chance and you want a fun series, don't make the team go travel from Montreal all the way down to Miami in a 3-day span, because you're just asking for, I hate to say it, a blowout. And that's not what you want here. And on top of that, Miami, just in general, you're trying to grow this sport. You're not putting one Miami game on FS1. That just seems ridiculous to me that you don't try to, look, I'm not a Miami fan here at all. However, you want to grow MLS and you want to get people to watch it. If you don't have this on a big network, I've mentioned it before. I've had friends joke around and say, what happened to MLS? What happened? Well, it's on Apple. It's hidden on Apple. And he joked around. He said, well, I'm an Android guy. Well, that doesn't matter. But again, if you don't know where to find MLS, I understand why people think it's disappeared, because you don't see it on ESPN. The highlights aren't there. You don't see it anywhere besides Apple and social media. So you have an opportunity for this first round of the playoffs to get Messi on TV, right? It's a best of 3 series. If somebody buys the playoffs or the MLS package to watch Messi, you still have at least one more game, if it's a sweep, right, to be able to watch it. I just think it's bad. It's just bad marketing by MLS not to get them on the big channel. And those are my rants. Hi, and I'm here, guys.
Welcome in, Tommy. I'll jump in to kind of address a couple of your points. So the reason that Miami's playing on Friday is because it's going to be on a national TV, international TV audience. MLS Season Pass is going to stream it free. It's going to be on Times Square. TikTok's going to do a ISO cam of Messi on Friday night. It was just announced today. And it's MLS really
the what cam?
An ISO cam. They're not. That's not what they're calling it. Like a star cam or something like that.
It's basically going to be a camera just following
just
Messi.
for Messi on TikTok. So
who ever watches those?
A lot of people, Tommy. That's the problem.
Get out of here. They have that. I am a huge NHL fan. Okay, and they have those for the NHL. And I tried to watch it once, and then a goal happens and you don't see it because the guy is on the bench sitting there. It's like playing the video game. Like when you play the video games, like when you go to the bench in the NHL game, you just sit there and you watch the game from the bench. That's what you do on these cameras. You made me so angry, Sydney, with your answer.
This is the case, though, of MLS cutting off his nose despite his own face right now, because they have Miami coming in on Friday night. They're going to be well rested. They're going to give it the whole banner treatment, Times Square, Messi cam on TikTok. By the way, the team
who watches it on TikTok? TikTok is for 10 seconds.
Here's my point.
It's for 10-second videos, not an ISO cam of a 90-minute match. That's the longest Get out of here. Damn it. Why did I show up?
Go back to the grocery store, Tommy. What are you doing here?
But here's my point.
TikTok is 10 seconds long. Who is watching a camera of Messi on TikTok for 90 minutes plus stoppage?
I said comment.
Many people, Tommy.
But
no, there's no one watching that. Get out of here. Get out of here. Nobody's watching that. What are you doing, honey?
Yeah.
Shut up. I'm on TikTok right now. What are you watching? Oh, I'm going to be in the bathroom. You can't be in the bathroom for 90 minutes watching TikToks. No, it's messy. It's messy.
Messi's in the bathroom currently as we speak.
There's going to be someone that's sitting in the bathroom on the toilet watching ISOCAM of Messi for 95 minutes. Oh, my God. Why did I show up to this?
To the second tonight off.
Oh, my God.
Because goodness knows the wildcard team won't get many nights off. But just going back to just the overall point, though, you're right. Just breathe. The overall point, though, is you're absolutely right. Montreal is going to affect them the most because they're coming not just to Miami, but to a totally new country. So you have customs to worry about, you have travel to worry about. Also, MLS can maximize its most precious asset. And it's a slap in the face to players to have to really bend over because MLS wants to maximize that. You're having to go to Miami on a short week. If you're Montreal, like I said, you have to go to customs of a whole new country. And Atlanta is not as bad because the flight's shorter. But it's just tough because MLS wants it both ways. They want to maximize MLS or Messi, obviously, but they're not thinking about the player well-being. Gray said it in the chat. There's going to be 3 road matches in 6 days. That's a joke. That's an absolute joke if Atlanta gets through. And that's a larger discussion that, it just seems like MLS and Apple are just so narrow-minded that they don't think about things like that. And, MLSPA is pitching a fit as to, why is this happening? Okay, Messi, great. But what about the fact that we have to play maybe 3 road matches in 6 days? We have to play on Friday just because you want to show it in Times Square. It's just a mess. And MLS, we've talked about this before on the show, MLS really needs to sit down with the Players Association and say, look, we have to do something about this because MLS can't have it both ways in this situation. I'm sorry. It's just tough for the players. So, Tommy, I 100% agree with you. It's just a drag. It's it's just a lot that MLS and the Players Association have to talk about. But MLS won't want to because their owners just want to make money, and it's a business. So you can't have it both ways is what I'm trying to say. You can't have it both ways.
I checked the internet just to make sure. TikTok and Times Square also are active on Saturdays, Sundays, Mondays, and Tuesdays. Just wanted to make sure everyone understands.
Exactly.
Times Square's TV still works every day of the week. And
I'm glad you found that on the internet.
And we're joking about it, but no. Why? I know why they're playing on Friday because it's school's out and all that. But yeah,
school's out. There's no school on Saturday or Sundays.
Friday. But it's a weekend. A lot of people will be in town, on vacation and all that, visiting the city. So for that aspect, I understand. But MLS, again,
no.
MLS is trying to have it both ways, and they can't. And it's going to take the players stepping up to say, no, we can't do this. It's not a benefit to us. Maybe a benefit to Miami, but it's no benefit to us.
Maddie, should MLS be able to have their cake and eat it too?
I mean, it brings up like so many different like conversations with the scheduling and everything. I mean, I think if you are going to do the quick turnaround, you need to at least make it 3 days. You've done multiple double match weeks this week where it's been like Wednesday and a Saturday. Great. If that's what you're going to do that. That's fine. Don't do this thing of like, hey, you're going to have an immediate turnaround. Whoever's going to be playing, you're going to then play Tuesday. And then you then come back after that game, only get a day to recover. And then you get maybe 1 full day of training, maybe. But even then that day of training is just, that's regen. So you're just, trying to make sure everything's good, make sure that you're all good. You're not actually doing any big training. And then you have to go again on the road. It's definitely something you have to figure it out. Because, I mean, you can't do that. It's going to not only, I mean, it brings up Sydney's point. I mean, looking at the players, like, it could seriously hurt a lot of players. And that can't happen. Like, that cannot happen. So I think there has to be a discussion about at least how you're going to lay it out, because that's another thing, especially if we're going to look at the best of 3 now. Because then if you are so adamant about making this like very like composed and making it very like, all right, tight schedule, quick turnaround, then you got to make the best of 3 in 3 days. Instead, you're making it and you're giving them a full week each time. So that's another thing where it's like, okay, like if you're going to do the quick turnaround, like you can't have it like, okay, for this first game, we're going to make it, you only get 2 days really to train. Good luck. And then for the next best of 3, then it's like, oh, well, you'll get all the time. It's like, hold on. It's like, we can't have either or. I think it brings up a lot of discussion, especially with like restrictions and how the scheduling is going to look. And it's, I mean, because if we look at Atlanta's schedule, I mean, how many double match weeks did we have? Like back to back almost. Yeah. Like insane. Absolute insanity. And not to mention too, a lot of those were back to back road games. Like it's like that needs to be looked at, because that's detrimental to a lot of just like of just everything. So I think that's definitely a conversation that needs to be had, because you got to fix that, because it's going to start affecting a lot of players like physically and mentally.
100%.
And that's the thing too, right? Like I understand you do all this stuff in the season to make it to the playoffs, and no, the 8-9 play-in match, the lower seeds, whatever, they shouldn't be rewarded. But that's not what this is. Like, this is actually, like Tommy said earlier, this is kind of being punished just because of like a player safety situation. Like, look at Atlanta, and I'm only saying that because of the familiarity. I think everybody can understand it. Like, Steon Gregerson went out in this match, and I was blown away by the sub when it happened. And I made it a note when I was here at the stadium. I said, I'm going to ask Rob about it. And I did. And he came out because of muscle tightness. So you have this guy who is crucial to your defense. Been one of the best defenders, one of the best center backs, really, in the entire league. Just consistently fast. He covers a lot of ground, makes up for a lot of mistakes, whatever. He goes out in what was it, the 60th minute or something? We found out it's because he's got some pain going on. He has zero time to recover for the play-in match, much less, like going and then trying to make it for the Miami match. Like, just making it to the Miami match would be a stretch. No pun intended. For his muscles. But the fact that you're literally minimum, like the minimum you're allowed to have is 72 hours between matches, and that's almost exactly what you're going to have in this case. It's crap for the players, and I totally disagree with it.
So let me ask you guys this, as we kind of look to tomorrow's match, how do you feel about Atlanta? Of course, they're coming off a massive emotional high on Saturday, and it's kind of a two-sided coin. One, it's an opportunity for them possibly to take that momentum in with them to Tuesday night, tomorrow night. But then on the other side of the coin, though, it could be a massive drop in that emotions because they're having to go on the road another hostile environment, not fully recovered, and all of that stuff. So I guess maybe go around. How do you feel about Atlanta's chances, and can they win tomorrow in Montreal? Team they haven't beaten this season to clinch a spot or clinch the right to play Miami on Saturday or Friday, I should say.
Maddie, go ahead. What you got?
All right. I mean, I think even from being at training today, I mean, Jason asked about it as well. You know, Atlanta's had success on the road the last couple of games. Pretty good results. They've thrived in those situations. And so I think that's a big thing too. I think you are taking the momentum. You know, I think that also could be and it's so strange to even look at the quick turnaround as a positive. That can also kind of help because, you know, you're not having a couple of more days where you're getting to sit on it. Like you're kind of going in immediately. That adrenaline's still there. You know, you got that momentum and that's there. I think if you're Montreal, you know, you're back at home still. One stat I do want to bring up, because I did some research and I did it because if you want to check it out,
we like research.
We scouted the opposition on SDH Network. It's on our website if you want to get a deep dive into Montreal. I'm going to start with Saturday, June 29th for Montreal. They beat Philadelphia at home 4-2. Double match week. They then played Wednesday, July 3rd. They lost to NYCFC on the road. Came back at home. They tied Vancouver. Another quick turnaround. Let's do a little bit more, shall we? When Atlanta then came to Montreal, they won 1-0. Went on the road to NYC, to New York Red Bulls, got a tie 2-2, came back home, lost 1-0 to Toronto. A couple more for you as well as we keep it going because the pattern is there. Is there. Saturday, September 14th, 2-1 win over Charlotte FC. Wednesday, September 18th, tied New England 2-2. And likewise, too, in that same double match week where they beat Atlanta at home, played Charlotte that weekend and lost 2-0.
Yeah.
I think if you're looking at CF Montreal right now, they're under a new head coach, and it's going to be interesting to see how this team holds up with the quick turnaround. Because from what we've seen in the full season, even up to some of their best stretches in this last couple of months, they haven't done well. They haven't done well with the quick turnaround. They haven't done well with holding and keeping some of that energy. Yeah. They haven't done the best. So you got to look at that. And then you look at Atlanta as well. Atlanta has a pretty good record on the road right now, which, you know, in past couple of years, you know, we have said the opposite. You know, they're great at home and then on the road, it's a little tricky. Now it's kind of flipped a little bit. Yeah. We have this edge on the road. And so it's kind of like it's a coin. You got one side, you got the other. You don't know which one. But I found that out earlier today, and I was like, that's interesting. Because you have to. You're under a new head coach. It's his first time really coaching a first team. He coached Columbus Crew 2, led them to the MLS Next Pro Championship, which that's astounding. What he did there is absolutely amazing. But you're in this new thing, and how do you adjust? How do you figure that out? Because that's also two moving pieces. If we're going to talk about Joseph Martinez, how long can he go? And
so you're saying there's a chance.
It's one of those things where it's like, it's a playing game. I feel like it could go either way. You know, it's like, I sit here and I'm like, I feel like it could go to penalties. I'm like, I'm really like, I'm leaning towards it. I really think this game might go to penalties, but I have no idea. I really don't. I just do not know, but it's crazy. But I found that out today and I was like, that's interesting. So it's another test. It's a test to see how both of these teams can adapt to having the quick turnaround. And it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to watch.
You mentioned penalties, and Tommy had his second heart attack of the evening.
I can't handle another one. We've had too many this year.
I won't either. I'm going to be panicking. Like my heart rate was 130 for the Orlando Atlanta game. I probably could have died during that game because I was also watching Georgia Texas. So I was already like, it was double. Like I was freaking out. But then
I'm
Georgia
glad that just doesn't happen. Just happens to me because I think during the Oregon-Ohio State game, I had no money on the game either. Just a big Oregon fan, and it got up to 145. And the last 45 seconds of that game, I looked over at my wife. I'm like, this is it. Goodbye.
You'd
I
have to
respect-
be
I respect
taken on the
Oregon.
stretcher if you had put money on it, I'm sure.
I respect
Yeah,
the
it would have been
Oregon.
worse.
We have Dan Lanning in common. I do love
Yeah.
Dan Lanning. He's
Yeah.
awesome. He's great.
Yeah.
I love Dan too.
Yeah.
So, I'm gonna give you all a pop quiz.
Ooh.
False.
See who read my
Well, I'm
article.
done with college. I don't.
That's not bad. I
What?
almost feel bad doing this. Atlanta ended with 40 points, right? Tommy, I'll go to you first.
Oh no.
What was the split between home and away? Don't look it up. Either one of y'all.
Like points wise?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
How many did they get at home and how many did they get away? It kind of shocked me when I saw this stat, actually.
Is it even?
No. Either one of y'all got a guess?
For CF Montreal?
No, for Atlanta. Sorry.
For Atlanta.
Yeah, for Atlanta.
18 points away, 22 at home then, or
What do you think?
Oh God, I don't know. Y'all, I haven't done like any math
That's okay.
since sophomore year. I don't know.
I'll tell you, Sydney cheated. No, you got it right, Sydney.
I figured it was something like
You made
the
me
fact
sound like
that
I was way off on my number.
No,
I was too off.
I just said no. I didn't.
No,
I
you
wasn't
said
like,
no fast.
Tommy, you're-
No.
close.
No, if you're like
Drop that, you dummy.
close, you go, no. And then like if I said, 30 of those points were on the road, then that's when you yell and say no. There's two
I
different
would've
ways
been like,
of saying no.
No, dude, that's dumb. You know that's not true.
My grandma was a teacher. I know more than you.
And if my grandma had wheels, she'd be a bicycle. Whatever. All right? That's an inside joke. No, 22 and 18. 22 at home, 18 away. I think, like, it goes to that whole, Mercedes-Benz should be a fortress kind of conversation. We always talk about how Atlanta has not been great, it feels, on the road. We always go back to that. They're only one win and a draw away from having the same record away than at home. And that might actually bode well for Atlanta, considering that every game that they're going to play, as far as they go in the playoffs, is going to be away, except for the one at home against Miami if they make it that far. Unfortunately, the Benz just has not been what you want it to be this year, and it really even going back to last year to a degree, but especially this year, it's just been tough and it's been frustrating. Not saying that they're good on the road, but they've handled some fairly important games and gotten some results that have kept them in it. And now you're looking at it where you're going to have tons of games on the road. So maybe there's something to be said about that. I mean, if they go far, we go back and we look at, this moment and we look at the record, and we'll all have to eat our words on the whole Atlanta sucks on the road conversation, because they're really not that much worse than they are at home.
Yeah.
Well, they were kind of really bad all over the place, though. So we can't all of a sudden,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? They weren't good at home and they weren't good on the road, but they got into the playoffs. That's great. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, but it's you're not wrong. It's just one of those.
They were good at one or the other, I guess I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, and really what it comes down to, if we're being honest, is this team has been mediocre this season. And I hate to say that. I hate to throw that out there, but I mean, making the play-in game means you're average, really. But it's what you do. I mean, it gives you a chance, right? It gives you an opportunity to go and do something else. That's what the playoffs are. They're a totally different tournament. So curious to see where it goes. But Tommy, you failed the test. I'm sorry.
You were supposed to give your prediction.
No, it wasn't. My prediction?
Yeah, that's why I thought you were talking.
No, I wasn't. What do you mean that's why I was talking? I didn't say anything about a prediction. Did I say
Did
something
the
about
gummy
a
hit
prediction?
harder than I thought? Like, what are you talking
I'm
about?
sure it did.
Well,
I guess
she gave her prediction, and now it was your turn. Then you started talking.
I was throwing out math and statistics. I'd never said.
Well,
I
thought it was leading to your prediction.
My prediction: Atlanta wins 1-0.
1-0.
I like it. I like it. I like it.
I'll take
I
it
can
all
see
day.
that too. Listen, I've been toying with it all day. I really have. I've been sitting here like, it could go so many different ways. I don't know. I could totally see like 1-0 and it's a Saba goal and it's a beauty. I could totally see that.
I think we're kind of on the same wavelength because Saba, and I wrote about it, Saba has that energy, has that determination you want in a player. This team had 11 Sabas, they being untouchable. Be that as it may, they don't. But he is just a remarkable player, and maybe the luck or the underlying numbers haven't hit the same way that you would hope them to hit. But he's been phenomenal, scored the goal against Orlando to really set the tone. And I wrote about it. If there's a player that can really take things up to the next level, it's him. He just drips enthusiasm. He just drips that determination that you want from all of your players. And I hope he's here for a very, very long time. I'm rooting for him. I think he will score on Tuesday. I think we'll get a goal from Miranchuk as well. I think Atlanta United wins 2-1 to advance to the round of, not the round of 16, but the first round to take on Inter Miami in the best of 3.
And you even bring up too, I think you talk about Saba, and I completely agree with you. I think Saba, he's bought in. He's bought into this club, and that's so important. I think, especially for what he brings. I mean, and I bring it up because it was mentioned in the comments. I mean, you got to look at Ronald Hernandez. I mean, truly, this is not even a plug. I'm not even trying to plug SDH here for a second, but I will. Me and Jason did a feature on Ronald Hernandez a little bit ago. And truly, if you want a player that bleeds for this club, it's him.
Yeah.
He bleeds for this club, loves this club more than anything. And I agree with you. I think when Ronnie was put into the game, it opened it up too. It allowed for Brooks to kind of push up a little bit. And it was a really cool thing to look at. Cause I thought Ronald was a standout in that game against Red Bulls, an absolute standout. I think him getting into that position was
great. And the Columbus game, I'll just throw it out there.
And absolutely. And I really do that's what you need right now. You need a player who's going to bring that energy, bring that enthusiasm, bring that energy, because that's what you're going to need. Because at this point, listen, we can talk about this season. And I know it's going to be something that we talk about. And that's true. It just is. But we can look at the season. But right now, that's done. It's over with. Right now, that book's closed. We're moving on to the playoffs. Playoffs are here. You cannot continue to look back. Because if you look back, you're going to get caught in the past. And that's going to screw you over when you go look at this game. Everyone, obviously, we have to look at the series matchup between CF Montreal and Atlanta. You have to. There's no denying what they did this season against us in the regular season. But right now, I mean, you turn that page, chapter's over. Let's move on to the next one. Because right now, playoffs, none of that matters. All that matters is that you get out of the game and you move on. Because that's all that matters. That's all that's going to matter right now. Because at the end of the day, if you go and you win the MLS Cup, what are they going to talk about?
And Rob has kind of described Ronald as being a guy that he does anything that he's asked. You know, he does anything that's needed. He's a guy that, and we've seen it over the years. It's kind of crazy to think that he's one of the most tenured Atlanta United players on the roster right now. And yeah, I think there is some frustration out there with him over the years. Mostly though, because I think he gets played in positions where he has told me when I asked, I don't prefer playing over there. And it's one thing to if you're a right back to play as a right winger, that's not as big of a transition to go from being a right back to a left back. You have to use another foot. It's not the same thing, but he's been asked to do that. He hasn't complained. He just admittedly and by his own mouth isn't as effective. And but you're not going to find a guy that works harder besides maybe Saba, because I really do feel like Saba lays it all out there every game as well. So.
He talked to Jason and Mike after the Columbus game, after he got injured a little bit after that, which is so unfortunate because he was amazing at that point against Columbus. But he said it. I mean, he said that to them, he's like, I'll play anywhere. If the coach wants me in right back, it's a center back, at midfield, he wants me as a forward, he's like, I'll do it. He's like, to help the club, I'll do it. And that's what you need. You need a player who's going to, buy in, a player that will be there for the club. That's so important. And I think especially with this win against Orlando making it into the playoffs. I think you're going to see that energy. I really do, from everyone. I mean, you watched even the video, like the videos of everyone at the end. And like, I mean, Rob's like locker room speech.
Yeah.
FEA. FEA.
Tommy, what's your prediction?
Yeah, I was about to throw you back on the spot. What you got?
I mean, it's going to come down to defending Joseph Martinez. If you don't have Gregerson, which obviously just speculating, if he can't go, I don't foresee good things happening to Atlanta United, right? I mean, he's a solid part of a defense that allows some high XG goals, right? It would make me nervous if he's not available. If he is available, I definitely think that they have an opportunity. With that said, I think Joseph does score one for sure. But I'm going to say Atlanta, and I'm going to say it's just going to be a repeat of Saturday where it's Saba and Tiare.
I will say Stian was training today with everyone. He is not listed as well, so he is available, and I would anticipate him getting in. It'd be the same thing, him and Derek in the back.
So no 3-0 today, Tommy?
I was feeling pretty good about
You're
that
almost
prediction
right.
when it was 2-0.
You're almost
When it
right.
was 2-0, I got some people tweeting me going,
35
maybe
minutes
Tommy's
in,
right
I was
here.
like, whew, man, this is going to be a good day.
Nostratami.
And then you
Tommy
allowed
Thomas.
to.
Listen,
But
I
then
think y'all should still do this live Waffle House thing. I think y'all need to do it.
I'm
I mean,
actually
come
all
on.
in for it. I think it would be fun. But
End of the year.
Yeah. I was shocked by how inconvenient it would be on my end for this particular one because, again, I would be here in Orlando. I don't know what I'm getting into. It's not my local Waffle House. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm in completely foreign territory. At
They
that
don't
point.
care.
But yeah, I do agree. I think we should do it no matter what. So I gotta throw something out there real quick because I don't know. Again, some people just aren't big fans of articles and all that, which I get.
I am.
I know you are.
Nerd.
I'm not calling you out. The atmosphere inside of Orlando Stadium after that match was off the chain. It felt like and looked like Atlanta had just gone and won a final. That's what it felt like to me. Then we got into the press conference room, and I give the biggest air quotes possible because it is the equivalent of a broom closet again. And we're in there. It's me, Doug, Mike, Jason, some of the social media folks, comm staff, and then Rob or Derek in this tiny freaking room. And they
Not a lot
are
of elbow room.
not a lot of elbow room at all. They're all
Definitely post-COVID.
included. Yeah, it was crazy. But they're all coming off this high still. Like, they're like trying not to smile. That was kind of the vibe that they were given, but they were ecstatic. And Mike even asked, he said, like this, again, as the announcer, this felt to me like the closest thing that this group of players has had to winning like a final in a long time. I think he asked it to Derek, I believe. But either way, I mean, everybody's responses were just they were very different as like this year, right? The whole mood has kind of been let's keep our emotions kind of even keeled, let's keep it level, whatever. They let loose down there. And when I say Rob ran up the ramp and gave me a hug, I mean this man hugged me. And then he hugged Doug. And then he went and hugged some random person who I saw later as he turned around was just a random guy that worked for Orlando. I mean, he was hugging everybody. He was just so freaking happy, man. And like, Brad coming up the ramp, like slapping his gloves up against the wall. And he's like, get in. And he's screaming. That was the vibe. That was the atmosphere. And I've seen some people say like, well, still got a long way to go.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Yeah, you do. You have to take this momentum. You have to take what you felt that night because it did feel like that. It felt like they just won a title. They know they didn't, but you now know kind of what it tastes like. Go and take it, weaponize it against Montreal, go to the playoffs, carry that momentum, and remember what it felt like. Remember how You felt in your rival's house winning something that actually meant something.
Yeah, and I mean, listen too. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, with the season that this club has had, through all the ups and the downs, through everything, you fight till the end, and you do it. You make it. Absolutely. I mean, you have to celebrate that. Like, through all the ups and downs, it's been a roller coaster of a season. You have every right to celebrate that. That is absolutely. I mean, you fought tooth and nail to get to where you are now. And, you know, a lot of bumps in the road, a lot of them, but you pushed through. You pushed through, and now you made it to the playoffs. Like that's something definitely to note. Now, you can note it. You celebrated. You had that time there on Saturday. It's done now. Close that book, and you got to move on because now you got tomorrow. But you definitely use that energy. You use it. You use all of that, and you push it forward, especially as you head into this match tomorrow.
Just real quick, though, you can't get too high. Yes, there's the emotion from Saturday that Tommy or Tyler you just talked about, and there's definitely credence to that. And hopefully they ride that momentum to a win against Montreal. But there's a danger in getting too high and saying, hey, we have to kind of approach this from a little bit of a grounded scenario. And I say that not to take away from Saturday at all, not to take away from the vibes at all, but this is a totally different match, totally different opponent. Listen, Saturday is one thing, but that's not going to get you a win on Tuesday. So they have to have that sort of mindset going into this match. But again, they have to have that belief, like you guys were just talking about. Hey, we just took that Orlando on the road. Nobody gave us a shot. Nobody gave us a chance to even be in this position. So that has to be the mindset. The two can't be mutually exclusive in that case, but you have to approach it from the right mindset and not think that, hey, we beat Orlando to get into the playoffs. We can just waltz into Montreal and just knock them off. There has to be that mindset of business. It's a business trip while not taking away again from what they did on Saturday. So, yes, that's just my quick 2 cents on it.
Come in swinging.
I hear you guys. But you guys see where I'm coming from.
I see where your point is, but arguably, I would say coming in with that energy is what you need right now, because I feel like that's been something that I feel like we all can agree in some of the matches we've seen that's been lacking. We needed to see that fight. We need to see that energy, and we got it. We got it. These last couple of games, we saw it. That's the fight, and I think it's there now. And now I think they got it. They got that taste. I don't think they're going to want to let it go anytime soon. And I think that is going to help them move forward. And I think that's where, and obviously I think too, but I think Rob said it today, you have to find that balance. And I think that's one thing that this group will do very well is you got to stay grounded. CF Montreal is a much different opponent, especially looking at how they're laid out, what they do, especially since they're finally starting to get the stride and the rhythm of who they are as what they're trying to be under their new head coach. But it's a different opponent, but I mean, mentality-wise, you grab onto that and you take it because you know what it feels like. You know what it feels like to get in, to do this, to sink your teeth into it, and now you got it. You don't want to let that go. You're going to ride it. You're going to keep pushing through all the way until you hear that final whistle on Tuesday.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tommy. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and they've been through this before. They've done this, right? Where they're going into a game with all the momentum of the previous game. And then you're like, okay, this is where it happens. This is where we start pushing forward. And then they blow a big game at home, right? And that was the story of the entire season. Real high, and then you just drop to the lowest of the lows and very fast. And if there's a team that understands how to not do what you've done before, it's Atlanta United in these situations. You just won a big game. A couple days later, you can't do what you've done in the past, the season, when you've been in those situations. Now you got to put it two together here. And I think there's there's going to be a lot of motivation. And you talk about Saba. I was in a broom closet with him in Columbus last year after the playoff game, talking to him. And I've never seen a man that looked more sad in his entire life. Okay, I lost my dog a couple years ago. Saba was more sad after losing that playoff game. Like, he was just in there and he didn't know what to say. He was just like, I don't like seeing it. Like, this is why I couldn't do this on a regular basis. Talk to like players after like big games like that. Like Doug will come in and ask some questions, and I'm just like watching on TV. I'm like, oh, damn, he asked that. I'm not good for that because I feel bad for these people as well. But man, Saba, I couldn't ask Saba every time after a loss how he feels because he makes me cry.
But I mean, even looking at, you mentioned a lot of the highs and lows. You get the momentum and you go. If you look at the momentum, though, you got that win against Columbus Crew. You had the long break and then you come back. Charlotte, the same thing. You got the international break. You thought things were going to roll. International break comes through. You don't have that break now. That's why I think that actually the momentum of having the quick turnaround might actually be a benefit instead of a negative.
Right. In addition to that, too, though, you had Red Bulls and then you had the break. You won.
Exactly.
You had a break, and you showed yourself that you can still go and do it again after the break. So now you've got 2 in a row to where you've done the job. Now, to your point, yeah, it's quick turnaround. I don't, and that's where I kind of go back and forth with the whole point. Like Tommy, what you said was kind of what I was going to go towards. Yeah. But you've done the whole thing all year where you have a good result. And then you kind of force yourself to come back to earth. And it hasn't done well for you this year. I think you've got nothing to lose. Like, you know, by many accounts, many pundits, Atlanta shouldn't even be in the playoffs anyway. Take that. And they already have to a degree. Rob has already tried to, take that point and run with it. But nobody believed in you. Nobody felt like you could do it. You just not only did you beat the team away, which is hard enough anyway, but you had fate go your way. So take all that and go up to Canada and come out swinging, come out with a little bit of cockiness because you still feel the way you felt 72 hours ago. And enjoy it. Go have fun and take the game to Montreal and don't ever let them get settled in and don't ever let Joseph Martinez get going. You can come out of this in a good way. You absolutely can. Sydney, I disagree with you.
How dare you? How dare you? Tomorrow should be fun. Yeah. Tomorrow should be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
So we have a 1-0 draw.
It can't be a draw.
1-0 win. We have a 2-1, a 2-1. And the Sydney, what did you say? A 2-1 as well?
2-1 win.
Y'all three said 2-1?
I think so. Maybe it's a 1-0.
I said 1-0, and then I also said I could see it. I could see it going 0-0 to PKs.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 2 1-0s and 2 2-1s. I think it's reasonable. I reasonable. I think I'm happy that Orlando did not knock Atlanta out of the playoffs. They did not have that satisfaction. I'm super happy that Philadelphia did not make the playoffs.
Yeah.
But yeah, you gotta ride the high from here, deal with the schedule congestion, and go make that Cinderella run. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
Ain't that some shit?
Ain't that? Yeah. I was trying not to laugh.
That was great.
When you said that.
I loved that entire thing. Like, you see his emotion, right? Like that's just fantastic.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'll say this too really quick. Sorry, there's a truck coming by that is compensating for something with its exhaust. Is
that a basalt truck? You know you're in the capital of basalt.
I know. I'm in zombie apocalypse land. No, I don't even know what I was going to freaking say anymore. That truck ruined it for me.
Believe it.
The truck ruined it for me. Screw it.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good thought, though.
Yeah. Share it later. Share it later.
I get some points for trying.
Yeah.
Final thoughts. Anything?
That's my final thought. I gave my final thoughts already.
Oh gosh. Final ride. Leave it all out there.
Yeah.
Go in there and no matter what the result is, no matter what happens, be able to say that you left it all out there. Be able to say that. And I'll end with this. FEA.
Yeah.
FEA.
FEA.
Forget everybody else.
Wait, what? That doesn't even.
Wait, she said A.
Sorry, no.
I was trying to figure out the A.
Sorry. No.
Is it F? Everybody a boot?
It's F. It's F them all.
Forget them all. Forget them all.
Yeah.
Forget them all. That's a PG version.
Y'all totally butchered this whole thing.
I screwed
Listen,
it up first.
my thing was gonna end. It was gonna be FEA. It was gonna be perfect. It's like,
I
yeah.
know. I'm sorry we didn't cue up the music right then, and then we had two people that got really confused.
Well, I didn't get my final thought.
What's your final
What's
thought?
your final thought? Let's go.
Look, the app is terrible. Anyways, delete the TikTok app. if we win tomorrow, you delete the TikTok app. Everybody, you do not want to help MLS up their Twitter video. It'd be awesome if you had to watch a commercial every 20 seconds of a video. They play a little ad for something and then they go back to I'm getting so angry talking about it again. I'm sorry I wasn't here the whole time. Madison, nice to officially meet you on the
Nice to
interwebs.
meet you as well.
Tommy, Madison, Tommy.
Yeah.
Hello.
And if you're on Patreon, we're probably going to do a watch along. So if you'd like to join along, Sydney's got something going on. Tyler's riding roller coasters or whatever he's doing, or on the beach. You can't let topless people on Zoom. I've tried it. It doesn't work. So he's not going to be on. But join me on a watch along, and then we'll go on Spaces and hopefully talk about a win and talk about, by the time we finish Spaces, it'll be Friday, and you'll have to be in Miami. So enjoy it.
I might end up just going south from here instead of coming back to Atlanta. I don't know yet. We'll see. Maddie, where can everybody find you? And SDH?
All right, everyone, y'all can find me, Madison Cruz 7 on Twitter and Twitter/X. Sorry, listen. It's still Twitter to me. I can't call it X. It's weird.
We're
Twitter X.
But listen, Madison Cruz 7 on Twitter, X/Instagram. That's where you can find me. I do a whole bunch of crazy stuff. You name it. We're all over the place.
What's
and
crazy?
then
Give me one crazy.
Oh, crazy. I mean, as in going from Atlanta United to then calling a GSU game to then calling Oglethorpe and a doubleheader. Yeah. But anyway, that's SDH. That's SDH. But you can follow SDH too, with Soccer Down here on both Instagram and Twitter. And and make sure y'all tune into the morning show tomorrow. John Nelson will take you through all the craziness of getting ready for Atlanta United, as well as getting ready for God knows what else. And that'll be at 9:05 a.m. And so make sure y'all tune in and give us a follow. We post a lot of fun stuff. We try to. Content.
I don't like your co-host on Wednesdays. So that's why I stopped. I don't
Not a
watch
big
on
fan of that
Wednesdays.
guy.
That guy sucks. I don't know why y'all have that guy on Wednesdays.
I know.
Especially Wednesday morning at 9:15. Like that guy, whenever he pops up, he ruins all of it.
God.
He's just terrible.
Yeah.
I'm
And
gonna
he's
go
not sure if
create
he's
a
gonna be
TikTok
there.
account real quick that's Messi 24/7 and see how many followers I can get. Make him think on the official Messi account.
Well, while you do that, let us know how it
Sydney's
turns
been
out.
trying to let us go now
No,
for about
no,
33 and a half minutes.
That's okay. We're
He's
here.
like, guys,
We're
stop.
in it.
What's your final thought?
my-
It doesn't matter what your
My
final
hand
thought
is
is.
not on the mouse. My hand is not on the mouse.
I
That
feel
would have
it.
been a perfect time to cue the music up there.
It would have been.
He already missed it. Now we get to go for another 20.
Make this count. Like, how many
Now I lost you.
followers get?
We got you
What?
now.
Me? Oh.
Yeah, now you're there.
No, make the account. 48 hours. I just want to see how many you can get in 48 hours.
Report
All
back.
right.
I feel like you have to post at least one TikTok though. It's just a photo of Messi. You have to, because then you're gonna get the traction, and then people will be like, "Ooh, gotta follow."
Yeah.
Make it happen, Tommy.
I'll put my Messi mask on.
Oh no.
Is that
MLS
Messi?
Monday?
That is terrifying.
It is.
How did you even get that?
It's Killer Clowns. Have you never seen Killer Clowns from Outer Space?
No.
Turn the music off, Sydney. We're going another 40. We're going another 40 minutes.
Oh my god.
Now you gotta explain because the music is off and we're still going.
It's a great movie. Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I'm 99% sure it's on HBO Max. Go watch it.
Okay.
Old, bad 80s
Got you.
80s horror movie. The
Will do.
clowns turn people into cotton candy and they put a straw in them and suck them out. I had to make sure I finished that sentence. So, yeah, it's great.
Okay.
Is this still going? Are we still live?
Yeah, we're still live.
Oh, damn. Okay.
You thought we're done?
The music stopped. That's usually the cue. Oh,
Okay.
man.
Because you said to stop the
You
music.
said stop the music. All right, I'm getting this out of here. Golly.
Madison, you're gonna have to report back on watching Killer Clowns.
I will, I promise. Don't worry. The next time I'm on, I will make sure that I've watched it, and I'll give you my thoughts.
All right. And then
Oh, we
we'll
should do a
end with
watch
quote.
along on Patreon.
I'll pass.
Give me 3 gummies and Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Goodbye, world.
Can I hit end stream now?
Yeah, whatever, man. Just do whatever you want.